Welcome, everyone, to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And what's on our minds tonight? We're going to talk about something that I think just about everybody thought was going to happen, the Switch Pro. So some latest rumors / news, if you will, came out that Nintendo has kind of basically decided that they are not going to do a Switch Pro. They opted to instead focus on a new console. There was rumors a year ago, 2 years ago that, even we were like, all right, Switch Pro is coming out like this holiday season. And then it didn't come out. And then the OLED came out, which pretty much crushed everybody's dreams about a better equipped Switch, So they're basically saying that some sources have told them that that they have news that it's basically been canceled, that there is no Switch Pro, and Nintendo is instead favoring to has basically canceled this to focus on a new console. What that console may be is up for speculation at this point. Some people are saying it's going to be a Switch 2 because the Switch is wildly popular. There's no doubt out there that the Switch is popular. Just about everybody's got one, and it's a very popular console. What most analysts are saying, though, is that this will not be a 2023 release if they do announce a new console. With rumors out there swirling around like Legend of Zelda, the Tears of the Kingdom going to be the last major first party title for the Switch. It's kind of telling. The Switch itself is behind the times. Its hardware is getting there. It's long in the tooth. Everything we seem to play on the Switch is suffering because of its outdated hardware specs. We just played a couple of games, reviewed a couple of games on the Switch, and I feel the Switch did a disservice to those games because the games just weren't fluid. They didn't look well enough, to compete with what I would consider current gen games. And Nintendo used to be the king, and now they're not even the queen. They're more like the 16th in line princess. Their princess is 27 castles back that way. And so, if this rumor is true that they decided to forego the Switch Pro and focus on something else, it is what it is. At this point, what is probably most for sure is that we're not going to get a generational competitive console. And what I mean by that is not going to be able to compete with the Xbox or PlayStation. It's going to be its own thing, like what Nintendo's been doing for years. Even though a lot of us would love to see Nintendo get in and compete with the big boys as far as hardware specs, and to be able to have a console that these first party developers for Nintendo and other dedicated Nintendo developers can put forward some amazingly next generation stuff that just looks great, looks amazing, plays amazing. Instead, we're going to get locked in. I feel, this is my opinion, and based off nothing but history and what I have a feeling of, that Nintendo is going to stick back to their handheld console. I want them to get into a console. I don't care about handheld. Keep your handheld market. They've always had that. When we had the Wii and all that stuff, you still had the DS Lights and all that stuff. Still had all that. Keep all that. That's popular. Makes you money. But come out with something that's competitive, something that tells Microsoft and Sony that you're still here to play, and that you can put them in the back seat still. But in my opinion, you're still in the back seat, and you're not in the back seat behind the driver and the passenger. You're in the fifth row back in the freaking passenger van because you just don't want to play nice with everybody else. But that's my opinion on that. And everything we know is still just all hearsay. And, just like when we thought there was going to be the Switch Pro, it was some reliable sources were saying this, and it just ended up being that we got a OLED edition of a Switch, which I didn't buy an OLED Switch. I don't know if these guys did either, and they kind of speak to that, but I still have the original one that I had, no OLED, and I'm not going to, because the hardware in the Switch is not worth me to spend more money on it. I bought the original. Nothing's changed besides a screen. Keep it. I don't want it because I don't play on the damn screen anyway. I play with it docked all the time. So kind of worthless to me to get it for an upgraded screen because I don't play it as a handheld. So Shane, what are your thoughts on these rumors of the Switch Pro being killed off in favor for a new console of some sort.
Switch got to go. She's old. She's a great handheld. Absolutely. No denying it is a great handheld. A little big for a handheld, but it's a great handheld. And that's what it should continue to be, a handheld. Give me a console, and you can still produce games for the handheld Switch. That's all they got to do. They don't even have to get rid of the market. They just have to make that a subset market. So they have a dedicated console and the handheld. They go back to where they were. Perfect. That's what gamers want. Don't get us wrong. I mean, we all love the Switch when it came out. Problem is the Switch was behind at that time as well. I mean, it came out in 17. It's coming up on 6 years now. So it's getting long in a tooth, and it was obsolete technology wise when it released. I mean, it couldn't keep up with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One at that time. So, I think the life cycle on this one's going to be shorter. I think they possibly will have something at the first part of 24 as far as a new console. I really do. Now, Nintendo won't do it though if the Switch is still making bank, and the last I heard, it's still making bank. So they're not going to give up a cash cow just like that. I mean, they didn't switch from the Wii to the Wii U until the Wii started slowing down, and then they were prepped and ready for the Wii U, or at least with the console part, not the games. But they were ready to go. All right, console's slowing down, time to whip out the new one, and that's what they're going to do here. But last I've seen, Switch isn't really slowing down. I mean, it's continuous and steady for sales. The problem with the Switch is it really doesn't put out the first party is what makes the Switch a great system. Just like PlayStation, their first party is what makes it a great system. Nintendo and Sony have the same issue, but Nintendo's worse about it. They don't spit out near the first party they need to. Plain and simple. I mean, Microsoft isn't dead last with the first party. So Nintendo, when Odyssey came out, freaking loved it. Beautiful game for what it was doing. First party games on Nintendo look great 99% of the time. I mean, for that system, I'm not saying it's 8K and all that crap. It's for that system, they look great. But that's the problem. I don't play them on the handheld. I play them docked because I don't want to look at that little screen. I'm not a traveling gamer. I'm just not. Nick will play more handheld on the toilet than I ever will. So that's just not me. But I want to see this be true. I want to see Nintendo come out with a new dedicated console that just works with today's generation. Hell, even works with the end of last generation with the upgrade stuff would be nice yet. I mean, give me the Switch version that's like a PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One X Ultra Plus, whatever the hell that thing was still called. Give me that at least. At least put yourself in some sort of competition. Nintendo hasn't really concerned themselves with competing for generations now. For the last 3 console generations. Ever since I went to the Wii, they just, we're going to do our own thing. Let's try it out. And they've been doing it, and it's working, but they need that dedicated console back. And they need to get their first party development more streamlined, just like Microsoft needs to. They got all the developers they need. They just don't put crap out. So we'll just have to see. But God, I hope that's true, and I hope it's a dedicated console that I hook straight to my TV. Maybe the Switch will dock into it. I don't know, but just give me a new console. What about you, Nick?
Don't give them any ideas.
Well, they did it with all the other stuff. You had the plug in, the set on the plug in, that connected to the plug in. The
You're gonna-
the the
You're going to end up with the Sega
GameCube.
Genesis and the 32X again.
Oh yeah, well, the GameCube could do the same thing. How you can hook a photo printer, if I remember correctly, to the goddamn GameCube. So, let's see what they do with it. Nick, do you want them to be able to hook up a printer to your next Nintendo?
No, I don't need a printer. It'll print wirelessly, so I don't need it to hook up there. It's not, well, it's I think this is a better step for Nintendo, not going with the Pro version, but saying forget the Pro version, mid, because it basically was going to be a mid-gen bump, right? So instead of saying let's do the mid-gen bump, let's just scrap that and just make a whole new device, right? Which I think is the better idea for them, for my own personal ones. I'm with you guys. I hope they make another console, like a dedicated console. And then I like the idea that Shane had, where the Switch becomes the handheld market, right? It's handheld market. And then they have a dedicated home console. Unfortunately, the Switch was too successful. And so the Switch 2 or whatever they make next is probably going to be just a revamped version of the Switch, because it was just so popular, right? And it still is popular. Like Shane was saying, the sales for that system haven't slowed down, right? It still sells like hotcakes. So that's unfortunate. I would like to know, like poll wise, like how many people would like to see a dedicated Nintendo system and have the Switch break off as the handheld market, basically going back to what they used to do, where they had their handheld market and then their home console market, right? And I would like to see that, from a wide demographic of who would like that. Unfortunately, I think most people would probably vote for what it is today, right? I think we're in the minority of those who wanted to go back to what it was. I think most would be like, yeah, Switch 2, would love the Switch. Like, I don't know. For me, and again, it could be, and we've talked about this before, maybe it's because we don't travel a lot. So we don't take a lot of, we're not in a big city. So we have public transportation, but we can drive a car, right? We don't have a need to have to ride the bus, because traffic's so bad and stuff like that. Or take the subway because it takes forever to get from one side of the city to the next, and various things of that nature. So we don't have a need to take our handhelds with us and go places, right? So maybe it's just not for us in that case. I don't take my Switch off its dock either, right? I have a Switch Lite, which is the dockless one. So if I want to play it off there, I can play that. But I don't take my original Switch off the dock, and I didn't buy the OLED version either. So I personally don't have a need for it. And I don't really get the Switch was a cool concept, but I don't get the concept behind that remaining as so, right? Because I think most gamers would I would assume play with it docked than in handheld hold, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't really seen the statistics on that. How do most players play it, right? Do they play it in handheld mode, or do they play it docked, or a variation of both? It would probably be less surprising, and more the fact that probably a lot more people play it in handheld mode, or a mixture of both, and not just dedicated to the TV, right? Which is what we all do, is we just dedicate it to the television. So it's unfortunate that I don't think Nintendo's going to go back to that main console. I just don't see that happening. As far as it coming out this year, no, I don't think it'll come out this year, but I could see it coming out next year. We might see, I'm hoping we do see something maybe at E3, or something closer to the end of the year. Like a Nintendo Direct or something like that talks about the next Switch, and then sets it up for, because I think the last Switch came out around this, I want to say it was the springtime, wasn't it?
It was March.
Yeah, March, something like that. So like at the end of this year, they could have a Nintendo Direct showing off the new Switch, and pre-orders are ready for another March release in 2024, right? The Switch 2, which is probably what it's going to be. Well, no, knowing Nintendo, it's not going to be the Switch 2. It's going to be some stupid name that they're going to come up with.
Switch U.
Yeah, right.
The Switch Me. It's going to be the Switch Me.
They tried that once. They tried it with the Wii and the Wii U, and they'll never do a number 2 or any other variation of name. It'll be called something completely different. The Joy-Con Drifter 2000 or something like that. I don't know. But if they do make a Switch 2, get rid of the Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons are the concept of the Joy-Cons was cool when Nintendo showed it off, and when you first got your console, the concept of the Joy-Cons were cool. But what I found having the Switch so many years now is I absolutely hate the Joy-Cons, and I play with a Pro controller, and that's it. I hate the Joy-Cons, not just for the drifting. It's just that the controllers are really small. I don't like having to plug them in and charge them through the console, and I just don't like all that crap. I just don't like the Joy-Cons whatsoever. Because most of the time I would take the Joy-Cons out, and using a Joy-Con by itself sucks. And then putting it even in the little controller adapter to make it into a controller, it still sucks. So get rid of the Joy-Cons. Just go to a regular controller. They're probably going to keep the Joy-Cons because of the whole Switch idea, but I don't know, make better ones. I don't know what they can do with them, but maybe make it where the new Switch comes with the Joy-Cons, or and then it comes with a regular controller, or maybe put out 2 different SKUs, one that comes with Joy-Cons, but one that comes with a Pro controller or with a controller, right? Just a regular controller, has no Joy-Cons. The docked only version, maybe, or something like that. It has the ability to put Joy-Cons on it, but you have to buy them separately.
Well, we have to be thankful that Nintendo put out the Joy-Cons, right? Because could you imagine if they'd have put those as built in, like they don't remove, and the Joy-Con Drift 1000 that's out now had drift, and you'd be stuck with that attached to your Switch? How pissed off would you be?
Yeah,
but you got to get a new Switch.
Well,
to fix
the
that.
Nintendo Switch Lite, those do not come off, right? They're a part of the system, but they don't experience drift like the Joy-Cons do. So,
I thought I saw that the Lite was having issues. Was in that possible.
My Lite hasn't. At least not yet, but I don't use it
I was
as
going
much
to say,
as
you probably
Joy-Cons.
don't use that one near as much.
Well, he doesn't use
Right.
it that much because it's covered in peanut butter and other sticky stuff right now because it belongs to his kids.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So,
they use it, but I can also hook up the Pro controller, right?
But yeah, from what I understand, there is Joy-Con drift in the Switch Lite, and it was in that whole talk of the
Part of a lawsuit too.
the
if I
lawsuit,
remember right.
the big giant lawsuit that everybody's trying to get into. So there's all kinds of videos on YouTube on fixing the Joy-Con, the drift on the Switch Lite, because you can't replace those.
Nope. No, the Joy-Cons were the biggest downfall of the Switch by and large. I mean, even with the graphical inability of the console, it still didn't overpower the controller crap being the biggest issue with it. When mine started drifting when I got Odyssey and started playing with that, because I didn't get a Switch at first. I got like 6 months later, something like that. It was right after Odyssey came out. And, I didn't even finish Odyssey because the kids played it first, because I got the Switch for them because I'm a good dad. So they played it first. And when I started playing it, I got maybe halfway through and it started drifting. And I'm like, why is Mario doing circles? And it was a nightmare. But of course, then I ended up getting the Pro controller and love the Pro controller. It's not Xbox Pro, but man, it's definitely a step up.
Shane couldn't figure out why he couldn't flick the hat in Mario, and it was because he was blaming it on Joy-Con drift, but it was just really Grandpa couldn't do the flick.
I could flick just fine.
Well, see, that's why they should get rid of the Joy-Cons, right? Because the whole point of it was the motion controls, but like they started out with that with the beginning games, like the 1-2 switch and the first Mario Party game had motion control, like mini games on it and stuff like that. But if you look at the games that come out nowadays for the Switch, like a lot of them don't even put those motion controls in them anymore. So there's really no point in having the Joy-Cons, right, at this moment.
First party games is about all that use it anymore, if they do use it.
Yeah, I guess the last game that came out, it was probably the Nintendo Sports or whatever, the Switch
Yeah.
Sports game.
That's first
Yeah.
party, isn't it?
And
Yeah.
it is. And
Yeah,
a lot,
so
but a
see,
lot
I mean,
of
it's
those,
just them designing on that stuff.
and a lot of those controller features, they all end up fading away. I mean, the haptic triggers on PlayStation aren't used near as much.
No, they're used all the time. I don't know. You just don't have them turned on, but they're used all the time. Even God of War had it.
I may have turned mine off. Yeah, I did. So
They're
but it's
used more
stupid.
than the whole center touch thing in the center.
I like the touch thing though, because like
Ghost of Tsushima did it the best.
Exactly. It's just there's the win, baby. You know, that's done right. But Nintendo needs to go back to the 2 SKU system, and they've already got a great handheld. So it's not like they have to develop anything. Now they can say, all right, we have a great handheld system that can play every iteration of an Xbox 360 game of any kind. So, I mean, that's good for them. But come out with a dedicated system. Make another GameCube Square, something. You know, that was such a fantastic, underrated system. I love the Cube. I hated the little discs, but I did love the Cube. But yeah, I'm happy that they didn't go for the Pro, because I wasn't going to buy one. It's just, I don't use the Switch enough. Even with a Pro, I wouldn't have used it near enough. So that's just me.
You might have if they started putting out better, higher powered games for it.
Yeah, that's true. But they just don't put out enough of what they do put out.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, but it may have been one of those situations where you can give your kids your hand-me-down Switch and you get you a new Switch. It just happens to be a Pro, you know. So
that is true. That's true. That's pretty much how they end up with all their consoles.
right? Yeah. So, I mean, you know, because I can only imagine there's not much is going to be changed from the new Zelda game that's coming out, right? They can't have done too much more because that game was pushing the limits of what the Switch could do, in my opinion. You know, so this one's going to be more along the same lines. I hope they do dungeons right this time instead of how they did in the original, but we'll see. Because I will be getting it. I own a Switch, you know, as well as the rest of us do. I don't think anybody here owns an OLED, right?
Nope.
Nobody bought an OLED yet.
Russ
did,
Russ
but
does.
Russ never
our group
bought
does.
an original one, so he
True,
had bought
he
one for his
doesn't have.
daughter, but his daughter's an adult and grown and took it with her, but he didn't buy himself one. So, you know, he's got one now.
He played it a while before he handed it over.
He borrowed it from her occasionally, but, you know, I mean, there was no OLED version when he bought her one, but he got his own now. And but like I said, the three of us who are mainly playing most of the games all the time, we didn't buy one. If it would have been a Pro one, I may have been inclined to buy one, just depending on because then they could have said, okay, Breath of the Wild is only on Pro. You know, it's not coming out on the older hardware, so we can update the graphics or something. Because I'm going to be sorely disappointed if the new Zelda comes out and it's just runs like a unpolished turd or runs like a polished turd. I'm still going to hate it because I'm like, you're at the limitation. Because Bayonetta really pissed me off. It was so horribly done on the Nintendo Switch. And it was a disservice for that game to be on the Switch.
Yeah, it's such a good game to be just held down so badly.
Yep. So yeah. You guys got anything else on the next Nintendo console that's rumored to be coming out soon, within a couple of years or so? Nope, I guess not. Okay.
Yeah, I just hope they
GameCube.
I just hope they do good by it, right? Just
GameCube.
here's hoping. Yeah, GameCube squared. Yeah, there we go.
Yep. It'll be another, and then what'll end up happening, it'll be the Wii U disaster all over, and they're like, screw it, we're sticking with handheld, we're never doing anything different again. So that'll be what happens to them, unfortunately.
And you know, the Wii U, I felt bad for it because it was a good little system.
But the Wii burnt everybody.
Exactly.
I didn't buy a Wii U
I got a
because
Wii
of the
U
Wii.
down the line.
Yeah. Because it was shovelware.
Yeah.
99% of the games are all shovelware.
That's why I figured the Wii U is more of the same. So I was like, not for me. And it turned out to have some pretty good stuff on it, but it did have a lot of shovelware still too. So, you know, I'm like Nick. I'd like to see the poll on how many people want to do a handheld versus a traditional console. I'd like to see that. Nick will be on the poll to figure that one out for us, but we'll get there. But let us know what you think down in the comments. Would you prefer to have a handheld versus a traditional console from Nintendo, or would you prefer both like we would? There's benefits to both. I could get myself a Switch because a Switch was relatively cheap. I mean, $250 is what I got mine for. That's cheap enough that I don't feel that it's a problem to buy games for as they come out. And I don't feel bad if I don't pick it up for 3 months, but if Nintendo does come out with a next gen console and it's $400, they damn sure better be putting out some games pretty frequently that I want to play. So let us know down in the comments what you think about that. What do you think the next Nintendo console is going to be? Is it going to be a Switch 2? Or is it going to be something completely different? Is it going to be handheld, or is it going to be a traditional console? Let us know what you think down in the comments. We really like to hear what everybody else is thinking. The three of us can be a sounding board sometimes, and we agree like we do on this type of a subject where we're all just like, I want this, and it's unanimous, So let us know what you think down in the comments. And you've made it to the end of the video. And if you have not subscribed, why not subscribe? Help us out a little bit. Like the video, and click that bell to get notified every time we put out new videos. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope to catch you in the next one.
See ya.